Mm.
And how about the second half? And never want as long as you live. What does that mean?
That the number of years you want to live will be you won't live. You will live more.
Mm-hmm. You live as long as you want, and never want as long as you live. It's because that word "want" has two different meanings, and the first one, "want," is means to wish for. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hachit. And the other one, and never want. This has a different meaning. This means to be without something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like brak, and never want as long as you live. May you live as long as you want, and never want as long as you live. Good. Okay. Katya, how about if you do your first one, number 4?
May your travels be as few and as far apart as my grandmother's teeth.
What do you think? Do you like that?
I think it's kind of humor.
Yeah, and it's a good one, and it makes you laugh. So, and what does this mean? May your troubles be as few and as far apart as my grandmother's teeth.
It's very hard to explain. I think it means that grandmother's teeth are not so good.
Yeah. How many teeth do you think his grandmother has?
And you should let your troubles go away.
Yeah. Not many teeth. Not many teeth. Good. All right, so number 10.
Oh, I didn't understand at all because there are many unknown words for me. And
okay, let's work with those unknown. Let's work with those unknown words.
Okay, first word is afflict.
It's what? Afflict.
Afflict. Afflict.
Afflict. That afflict is you say. Let me give you a different context. Today I'm afflicted with a cold. I'm afflicted with a fever. Afflict is to
feel uncomfortable, maybe. No?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I have a problem with. Okay. Good. Very good.
But I don't know what is a spud.
A spud. Anybody? Daria, Katya, what's a spud?
I don't know.
Oh, come on. Every Russian's second favorite food. It's a potato. Okay?
Oh.
Okay? So now it makes sense, doesn't it? May the frost
never afflict your spots, so you can have everything will be all right with your fruits or vegetables or something in your.
Good. And how about the next sentence right here?
May the outside leaves of your cabbage always be free from worms.
Okay.
Worms.
Worms. A worm is an insect. It's long. It's long.
There's a special kind of worm that eats cabbage. It's a cabbage worm.
Cabbage.
It's cabbage, you know.
Капуста, да?
Yeah. Okay. All right, you're doing great. How about this sentence? May the crow never pick your haystack.
May the crow never pick your haystack, and may your donkey always be full. What is a crow? And I don't know what is a haystack.
A crow is a black bird.
Ah. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and a haystack. A haystack is a stack of hay. It's a stack of hay. Haystack is a stack of hay. That's called a tautology. Haystack is hay is sienna.
Сено, да. Сток сена, да?
Okay, yeah. All right.
Сток сена.
Okay, and may your donkey always be in full.
And it doesn't make sense. I know what each word means, but I don't know the whole sense. I can't catch it.
Okay.
Your donkey is a soul? Yes.
A donkey always be in full. A foal is a.
It's like young. It's always be young.
It's a young donkey. May your donkey always be pregnant. All right. Okay.
So it means everything will be all right. Yes.
Sure. Yeah. Everything will be all right. And all of these images here. Spuds, cabbage, worms, crow, haystack, donkey, foal. Like, what is the context for all of these images? This is not. What's the context?
It's like a village or how to say it in English, домашнее хозяйство.
Well, housekeeping. Okay, this is agricultural. Agricultural image. Kind of a farm. And this is the kind of thing that an Irish farmer would understand. Good for you. Good for you. Okay, here we go. Back to Daria. May the grass grow long on the road to hell for want of use.
It means that the road to hell, that you don't need the road to hell, and it will grow the grass.
Right, and the grass grows if you don't use the road. Good. This is a good. Would you like someone to offer this toast to you, Nadia?
Yes, I think it's very unusual.
Yeah. So go ahead. So propose a toast. Lift up your glass and propose a toast to the rest of us.
May the grass grow long on the road to hell for want of use.
Great, terrific. Okay, Katya, here we go. Number 6.
That we always have a clean shirt, a clean conscience, and me in our pocket.
All right. So what does this mean? Miss Kate?
As you know, me is gold.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
clean shirt. Clean shirt, we know, right?
Yes.
A clean conscience.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And a guinea in our pocket. Guinea. This word.
It's money. It's money.
What? Guinea? A guinea.
It is money, yes?
It's money.
Mm-hmm.
Guinea is money, and I'm not sure how much. Does anyone know? Any of my colleagues? Is that a pound? A guinea?
Yes.
Okay, a guinea is a pound sterling, I assume. Okay, Soleil, number 11.
And the final one. Beautiful young people are acts of nature, but beautiful old people are works of art. So it means that as we became older, we became what we made from ourselves. Mm-hmm. So, and we have to respect all people. That's all I guess.
Yeah. Acts of nature are things that just happen. Maybe.
Yeah.
That just happen. That they just occur. But a work of art, that's much different, isn't it? Okay, good. All right. So far so good on the toast. And now we have some folk sayings. These
Expressions?
yeah, these expressions. All right. Same thing. Let's do the same thing that we just did. Daria. Let's do 1 and 2. And Katya. Let's do 5 and 6. And Soleil. 7 and 9.
Why not 8?
You want 8? Okay, 7 and 8.
No. We just have the same expression. No. I'll take 7 and 9 if you want.
7 and 9.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. And when you say you have the whole expression, a lot of these have Russian equivalents, so
Okay.
I hope that comes up. Before we start, anyone, what's this figure up here at the top? Nadia, what do you think that is? This little domovoi here. What is it? Katya, what do you think? What is this?
He has a specific ears, so he's probably gnome. I don't know.
Yeah.
Gnome,
Yeah. No. This
leprechaun.
Leprechaun, exactly. Leprechaun. And the leprechaun is holding a shamrock right here.
Mm-hmm.
And in his left hand, what is he holding? Kate, what's he holding there in his left hand? Daria, what's he holding in his left hand?
It's gold.
It's a pot. It's a pot of gold. It's a pot of gold. And the saying is that at the end of the rainbow you'll find a pot of gold. Did you know that that's true? If you find the end of the rainbow, you'll find a pot of gold. Okay. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And one of these days I will get to the end of the rainbow. Okay, Daria, number 1.
A dream precedes a story.
A drink, what does that mean?
It means that first you dream and then tell a story.
Right, yeah. Okay. How about number 2, Daria?
A friend's eye is a good mirror. It means that how your friends see you, that way you your behavior is how your friends think you are.
Right. A friend's eye is a good mirror. That means you if you want to see yourself, what you really look like, you can look in a mirror, or you can look into a friend's eye, and a friend will tell you what you look like.
Or not. They may be less critical.
They may be less critical. Do you like this expression, Daria?
Yes, I think it's fruitful.
Good. Okay, Kate, here we go. Number 5.
Put silicon in gold and it's still a gold. I think it means that you can be what you are not. If you are a gold, you can become something else.
There's an English folk saying that says a leopard never changes his spots, or another one that says you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig, right? Put silk on a goat and it's still a goat. Okay, Kate, how about number 6?
There's not fireside like your own fireside.
Okay.
I think it means that your fireside, it may be not from the fireside, it's the best, especially for you.
Mm-hmm. How about if you say, be it ever so humble, there's no place like home. Be it ever so humble, there's no place like home. How about, I know that there's a Russian folk saying that expresses the same idea as number 6. Kate, can you think of what it is?
No.
В гостях хорошо.
А дома лучше, да.
Okay, that's the same idea. There's no fireplace. There's no fireside like your own fireside. Okay, Soleil, number 7.
It's not a secret if it's known by 3 people. I have to explain that. Yes. It means that information can be spared if it's known by more than 1, I guess, more than 2, maybe.
Yeah.
Also, if you want to keep secret, don't tell anybody.
Exactly. So how many people does it take to keep a secret?
2, I guess.
Maybe 1. Maybe I take 1. All right.
1, in and 9. If you sow in spring, you will not reap in autumn. I guess it means that if you don't do something in present, so you can't wait for results in the future.
Right, exactly right.
We have the equivalent не посеешь, не пожнешь.
What is the equivalent?
Не посеешь, не пожнешь.
Aha.
Да.
Could you put that in the chat?
Да, конечно, по-русски. In Russian?
Yeah.
Не пожнешь. And we have the equivalent for 8 expression.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
For 8.
Yes, it takes time to build castles. Rome was not built in a day. We have the same expression about Moscow. Moscow was not. Moscow was not built in a day.
Не сразу строился, да?
Да, не сразу строилось. It's женский, female. That's why строилось, not строился.
Да, строилось, да.
Could you put that in the chat also? Listen, ladies, we want to encourage you to write in the chat. Like if there's a word that you don't understand, put it in the chat and somebody will answer it for you. Okay? Good. All right, so let's remember that. Very good job. Very nice.
Professor Lero, if you can pass me the comm, I have a Lucky Charms ad to share.
All right, just a moment. I'm going to...
Through the magic of television.
Magic of television.
I'm not sure. Carly, you probably remember these ads better than we do, but I've picked the one with the vault.
And so when we listen to a video that is played through this system, you need to mute your microphone because otherwise the feedback is awful. So please mute your microphone.
I will add, of course, that leprechauns speak with an quote-unquote Irish accent, so you may find the leprechaun a little hard to understand, but it's a very visual ad, so I think it will really give you a sense for what this serial was about. Here we go. Say well for everybody.
There was a bit of delay towards the beginning, but then we...
That was terrific.
So you may have noticed all the symbolism that Professor Lira was talking about. What did the leprechaun ride on? How did the leprechaun fly? By riding on a what? Dahlia? On a rainbow, yeah. And the notion of luck and charms is all put together here. And one of the themes or conceits of these ads were that the kids always wanted to get the cereal, and the leprechaun always wanted to keep the cereal for himself. Those are me lucky charms, he says. Daria, how did you find the English? Could you understand the leprechaun?
I mostly understand him.
Well, I think you're exactly like American. We sort of understand what he said, but sometimes it was a little unclear. Carly, was that the ad you remember from your childhood?
That's one of them, I think. It seems like they made quite a few different ones. They got kind of creative.
There are quite a few of them up there on YouTube.
Yeah, I haven't seen one in quite a long time.
And these were very popular in the 1970s and 80s.
Mm-hmm. This is not the high point of American culture. Yes,
I don't know.
Shule.
I don't know.
I don't know. Just sложный вопрос.
Oh, well.
So we're going to switch gears now and yet look at another ad, just in case you think ads don't carry cultural content.
Mm-hmm.
Professor Smith, could you please pass Professor Storm the control?
I will. And Carly, I've just uploaded the ad for you.
Oh, okay. Great. Oh, darn a minute.
Oh, do we lose it?
That's okay. I got it anyway.
Okay.
So, Professor Marston, do you want to introduce the video at all?
Yes. The biggest sporting event that we have in this country is the Super Bowl, which pits two top championship football teams together, and it is the biggest ad moment of the commercial year, and everyone looks forward to seeing what commercials will be shown with the Super Bowl. And what we're going to show you is a Coca-Cola ad, a Coke ad from this year's Super Bowl. And this, I will tell you, caused much more controversy than anything. And maybe got almost more publicity than the Super Bowl itself. And what you're going to hear is a version of a song more loved by Americans than our national anthem. The national anthem is hard to sing because it has a big range and it's kind of always sung like a dirge, like a funeral. And so quite often, instead of singing our national anthem, we will sing America the Beautiful. And so it's treasured by every American, even if they aren't very patriotic. And so this is what the Coke ad did, what Coca-Cola decided to do to celebrate America for the Super Bowl.
And perhaps, sorry.
Go ahead.
And perhaps as you are watching this, you could think to yourselves why perhaps this video is so controversial. So spoil for me, why was it so controversial? We can talk about it afterward.
And in the meantime, will you please mute your mic again?
Okay, I will press play.
Oh, beautiful for faces, your peace in
Spacious skies for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains, majesty across the fruited plain. Beautiful, beautiful language. Beautiful poetry.
Did you notice, were you able to hear all those words as you listened to this song? Why do you think this would be controversial? What do you think, Daria?
It's really hard to say. I don't know.
Did it all sound like English to you?
Yes.
And can you imagine why people would be upset by this? What do you think, Kate?
I don't know.
If I'm, sorry.
Soleil, go ahead.
Maybe if I'm not mistaken, there were many languages there. Yeah. And that's why we heard the Yiddish, Spanish, Chinese, I guess. There are a few languages, and the idea was in united union of different language cultures, America as a place where they all can live together. And I think there was a problem who is American is. Yes, I guess. And that's why this commercial was so controversial. So that's it, I guess.
I think you got it. It's you're absolutely on the money, as we say. You got that exactly right. And So it's in, we have a diverse culture. We have always had a diverse culture. But people have grown up singing this song. I think I learned it in kindergarten before I started to school. And so everyone hears it in their head. And a lot of people hear it in English, and if that's the only language they do, then they feel robbed, that somehow this is almost a desecration. And so the biggest group of protesters had to do with people who think that this country should be English only.
Ooh, I think that's a short-sighted view. Short-sighted, such a narrow view. I can't agree with that. I think this hymn is beautiful. It was written. Actually, it was written by a woman who was visiting Colorado Springs, and she looked out onto the mountains, the Rocky Mountains, and wrote this hymn. I remember in the weeks after September 11, that my wife and I went to the opera, and before the opera began, the conductor came out onto the stage and said, "Before we begin our performance this evening, we're going to play America the Beautiful." And the orchestra began playing America the Beautiful, and everyone in this immense hall stood up and sang, "Oh, beautiful for spacious skies." And
it's very interesting to listen to the words Professor Lero is using: poetry and hymn. This song has such an aura about it, right, Professor Lero?
It does. Unlike our national anthem,
Yes.
which is very militaristic.
And we here in Texas have a particular viewpoint because so many people in Texas speak Spanish. When I moved to Texas, there was a line on the map that said everybody below this line, primarily it's majority speaking Spanish. That line was in San Antonio, a city that was very far to the south. Now that line is north of Austin. So in fact, Professor Lero lives in a location where overall more people speak Spanish than speak English.
Mm-hmm. Who put this picture of hate truck? That's a perfect name for it.
Yes, I found this picture. I wrote in the chat that a lot of the comments that I was reading to the video on YouTube of this Coke ad were saying, how dare they sing our national anthem in another language? And it's not our national anthem.
Yeah.
So, as Professor Lero said, it's a very sort of song that's treasured by many Americans, but the language seemed to play an important role. Not what didn't decide everything, of course, but there are some tendencies to among some people to say, "Speak English or get out." And so
go back where you came from.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorites.
Yeah. And people tend to forget that, and of course, this isn't something that every American thinks. And that's what an important point, I think. And Professor Marston mentioned that this commercial got so much publicity that it almost overshadowed the Super Bowl games or the game itself. And I didn't watch the Super Bowl at all. I wasn't at all interested in football, but I heard about this commercial. And I watched it because people were talking about it here in Finland. And many people forget that most of us are not actually from America. Our ancestors come from elsewhere. So you're right, though. This is a perfect name for this picture, calling it a hate truck. It is very hateful.
Mhm.
But one of the things that I think is most rich about the diversity of our American culture is we have people from so many other places, and they come and they enrich our culture with things that they brought from home that they treasure. And I think that let's see, what are some of the different ways that you can think of? Let's see, you also live in a country with diverse culture, but I wanted you to think about the people that you interact with every day, and to think about race, ethnicity, nationalities. Can each of you write in the chat people that you have interacted with in the last week who are of a different ethnic group or culture than yours? Just go ahead and put it in the chat and give it some thought. From the beginning of this country, there were attempts to make a national language. And English wasn't always the dominant one. For a while, in Pennsylvania, there was a large movement to make German that language because there were so many German immigrants. Did you know that, Pete?
I knew that.
And so and there have been well, Soleil, I'm not surprised by your answer.
I'm predictable.
And can you think of anyone that you interact with that is not ethnically Russian? I guess that's what I would say.
Yes, I had to write that, not to speak. Okay.
And I would like everyone to write this. So, Kate, Daria, can you please write in the chat as well? When I was a child, I grew up in Oregon on the West Coast, and everybody looked like me, and everybody had the same culture. And this is a long time ago, and I was in college before I met someone from a different race or a different ethnic group, and that everybody looked the same, and spoke the same language, and except I remember when I was in high school, I did know that there were a lot of Spanish-speaking people who came up from Latin America somewhere, I didn't know where, to work in the fields and harvest crops. There were migrant workers. And that was my experience. And they weren't anybody I talked to. My mother would have had a fit had I tried. But I didn't know Spanish anyway. So, our among those groups, among those people that you know and interact with routinely, do you encounter some cultural differences? How they act? You can talk too. So
yes, of course we see, because as I wrote, Omsk in south border, so there's a problem of interaction of native culture, native language with migrants. I don't know, am I correct when I say migrants?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So they don't want to speak Russian, and they stay in small groups, and they don't actually interact actively with Russians. And when I say Russian, I mean that all who live in Omsk for a long time. And immigrants don't want to join our culture, and that's a problem because we have no chance to understand what are they talking about, what do they plan, why do they act like they do every time. They even wear different clothes. They wear. I saw people with hijab in Omsk streets, and that's really uncomfortable because it's kind of frightening. Omsk was a closed city in Soviet Union, and we have so many different cultures there. There were yes, women in hijabs and all. Yes, I was shocked actually, and we didn't have many nationalities, only Russian and Kazakhs probably, and maybe no. Other Ukrainians and people from Belarusia were like Russian, so I just choose these two nationalities. And yes, what Daria утверждает мое мнение, да. And it's not comfortable because our government doesn't rule the process of immigration, and it's like house in this. And this might be a problem, I think. Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting. Daria, have you lived in Omsk all your life?
Yes.
And you grew up there, huh?
Yes.
And you are, and both of your parents are they? Both of your parents are ethnically Russian. Ethnically
yes.
Russian, yeah.
And grandparents and grandparents.
Oh, okay. So your family is entirely Russian. So your family is Kazakh.
Yes, we are ethnically Kazakhs, but we live in this region for many generations. So we are local Kazakhs. We are Russian Kazakhs.
Russian Kazakhs. Okay.
Yes.
Do you think of yourself as a Russian or a Kazakh?
I'm bicultural identity. I have bilinguistic identity, I think. When I visit Kazakhstan, I feel like Russian at all. And when I'm here, I understand that I have many Kazakhs stereotypes, cultural background, and so on.
I say that because I am ethnically Polish, and I think of myself. I think of myself as an American, but I'm also very aware that I'm Polish, and we don't speak Polish at home, but when I go back to my hometown in Massachusetts, and I speak with the older my older aunts and acquaintances. We often speak Polish. Kate, tell me about your background. Are both your parents ethnically Russian?
Yes, but one of my grandmother was born in Latvia, but she's Russian. And another grandmother.
I'm having a hard time hearing, understanding you.
My grandmother lived in Omsk. And then moved to Omsk.
And you have lived in Omsk all your life, huh?
Yes.
All your life. And you think of yourself as Russian? Of course, okay. Let's see. There's a picture on the whiteboard, untitled, and it says, "So you're against immigration? You're against immigration." And Kate, what's the picture here?
You will have to minimize this, make the picture smaller so that you can read all of it.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
If you make it 200%, you will get a good view. And so, can you identify who the person is in the picture? Not their name, but something about them.
It's original American.
Yes. We say
Indian
or Native American is what is politically correct now. But people still talk about Indians, and maybe that's a discussion for another time, what people call that. In Canada, Native Americans are called First Peoples. And so this is addressed to what audience? Who's he talking to?
With those Americans who think that they are first, who live there on this territory. With authors of hate track.
Yes, the authors of the hate press for sure. And people who are not indigenous, which is most of us. My family, most of my family came to America in the 18th century. And let's see, there were some people who came early in the 19th century. So I think of myself as a long time American. So what's he saying? Maybe Lisa, could you read this, please? What it says on the picture.
Professor Marston, you said Lisa. I don't see Lisa.
Oh, I'm sorry, I meant Daria.
So you're against immigration. When do you leave?
So what's the joke?
The joke is that most of the Americans are not native Americans, and if they are against immigration, they have to leave the country.
Yes. Let's see. Okay, I have changed the image, and this one is called the melting pot. And what do you see? Can you describe the picture? Kate?
Yes.
What do you see on the picture?
You see the melting pot, and you see a lot of people.
And what's that thing on the left? What's that? The big monument
of the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah. And do you know where there is a copy? Where the Statue of Liberty is? There are actually several around the world, but this is I'm sure this is the one in New York Harbor. Do you know what it's a symbol of?
I know that French present this statue to Americans.
Yes, right.
So yes, it symbolizes freedom and independence.
Yes, everyone can be equal here is the idea. And her torch shines a light on what we do. And what happens to them when they get into the pot?
They melt.
They melt. And are they still distinct? After they melt, they're just part of the American soup. They become Americans, no matter where they're from. I wanted to return back to the idea that we touched on earlier of people who are immigrants or foreigners that live in a new place, and to think about what it's like to be one of those immigrants or foreigners. In my state, in Iowa, there are a number of Bosnians, a large Bosnian community. And I say community because they have a common religion. They have a common way of dress. And we have a farmer's market, which is the place I generally see them, but I don't usually interact with them because we don't have a common language. Usually the immigrants don't speak the language of the host country. They speak their own language. It's their children who learn to speak English and probably Spanish in school. And so we don't have much of a way to interact except with gestures. I know that my favorite vegetable stand at the farmer's market saves big boxes of sweet bell peppers and sells them to the Bosnians in bulk. They do things together, and partly that's because it's a part of their culture, and partly they don't know how to fit in because they don't know our language, and nor do they know their customs. They stay within their comfort zone. Iowa has actually become famous as a refuge. There are a lot of Hmong people who are farmers who came here at the end of the Vietnam War and who have large farming communities here. And here, this is, you may have to blow this up. This is something that Professor Storm found for us. It's the ancestry in the United States by ethnicity or race. And you can see on the right, you can see what the colors represent. And if I can point to this too. This is the state of Iowa. This is where I live. And this is the state of Texas.
There's Texas. That's where I live, right there, right in the middle.
And I lived in Texas for a long time. Professor Smith also lives in Texas, near where I used to live.
But I grew up here in Massachusetts. Where there were many Polish immigrants. Lived in a community of Polish immigrants. Daria, Katya, Soleil, listen, I'm going to ask you a question about the melting pot, okay? We saw those people going into the melting pot and becoming one. How do these people melt? When you say the melting pot, what happens when the people go into the melting pot? How do those cultures mesh? What happens? What kind of events happen to create the melting pot? I'll give you one idea. The kids, they go to a school. They go to a school and they study with other children. So they interact, and those cultures interact at schools. Huh? How about another idea? Daria, Katya, Soleil?
maybe even the first generation of immigrants have to interact with native Americans, with Americans, just Americans, and have to learn English because they need to find a job, need to get the money.
Drive a car.
Yeah. So they have to know the minimal level of English.
Right.
And I think not just language play a role, but the values, key values of your culture that which these people share, and they admit them, and this is the first signal of melting, of them melting in this
melting pot. How about here's another way, maybe a very dramatic way. Maybe you fall in love with someone from another culture. And maybe you fall in love and you say, this woman is different, this man is different, but I love him, I love her. And she's everything that I want. Now, is that, how do you think parents feel about that, Nadia? This woman, this man is from a different culture. I love him. I love her. We're going to be married. Katya? How do the parents feel about that? Do they like that?
I don't think so. Because they lose touch with with their own national language, maybe, and traditions.
I was interested to read what you wrote on the blog. One of the things that you talked about was the informality of Americans dress when they go to the theater, or a lot of other places. And so I have to tell you that for me, this is appalling, because I grew up with the idea that what you wear is part of the respect that you show. If you go to a play, then you dress up out of respect for the performers. And going to church, I see there are people sitting in church in shorts and flip-flops, and this is just plain disrespectful to me. But you have to, one of the things that you have to take into consideration when you're looking at how people behave is their age. The values that I hold are the values of my generation in so many ways, and things that are important to me may not be at all important to my grandchildren, because it's not a part of their culture as it has evolved. Now, for example, if I give my grandson a gift, he might be moved to tell me thank you, or he might not think about it. But he wouldn't have what I had when I received a gift from my grandparents. I had to sit down that very day while my mother looked over my shoulder, and I had to write a thank you note to show gratitude and respect. So it's always interesting to look at things in context. Now, I might think, those ungrateful grandchildren, they never say thank you for anything. But then my grandson, who's a musician, might go out of his way to compose something for me, and send me a clip, and he'll say, "I really liked what you sent me." You might not even say what that was, but they're not connected in its mind. So there's less a formal structure there. So we may not always, we certainly do not share the same values across generations and across cultures. When I lived in Texas and worked at Southern Methodist University, I had a number of student workers, and a lot of them were Spanish speaking. And one of my favorites was a woman who was 22, and she still lived at home, which was unusual. I know it's common, more common in Russia than it is in this country, but because she was Hispanic, she was expected to give all of the money that she earned to her family and to take care of her younger siblings. So she basically had no free time at the university, and she was the first generation in her family to go to college. So I'm sure that her experience will be different from the experience of her children. She was completely bilingual, and I had Hispanic friends who were slightly older than she, who were raising their own children to speak only English. So it's complicated. Human beings are complicated. And we may be, for example, we may avoid talking to women in burqas because we don't know how to approach them. And part of that may be that we might understand that they're not supposed to talk to men on the street. And women, you know, if I speak to this woman in a hijab, the hijab is different than the burqa, of course. Will we have a common language? Will I be getting her into trouble if we talk? And so it's my ignorance of her culture that keeps us apart. But if we meet in another, not on the street, but in another context, for example, if I have a student in class who's wearing a hijab, of course she will talk. And it's like whatever she's wearing goes away. We don't think about it because she's there as a student and she expresses herself through that role. It's complicated. And, go ahead.
Sorry. I to circle back to Saile's comment about seeing women in hijabs walking around in Omsk. I had a question for all of you. How do people react? Do people say nothing? Do people say something as they walk away or say something to them? Or what is common, at least in Omsk, when you encounter this?
I think in Cologne we try to avoid them because we don't have a chance to interact with them, and they usually have a man around them with specific appearance, and so we just ignore them, and they are too. I wanted to write you about Islamic movement because it's quite dangerous in our region, I think, because it's not organized and it's not controlling by nobody. And there are many Kazakhs, young Kazakhs who came into this religious group, and they are not traditional from, and they wear clothes. I know my brother, my cousin. I don't know how to say двоюродный брат. I have cousin. I have a cousin who was a usual young man and ordinary young man. He speak Russian. He totally Russian in cultural sense, but he met those strange Islamic people, and now he's acting very strange, and he tried to avoid contact with relatives, and we lost him, I think, and it's this situation is frightening for me. So people in hijab is just a signal for that we have something new, something unknown that we don't know how to interact with. That's why it's frightening, yeah.
And that I can relate to that because we, in the people that I see around me, unless there is a way to relate to them, as I've said, in class or on campus, we don't really know how to approach them. I don't think I'm afraid for that. It's not about fear for me. It's I might feel a little rejected because I'm not in that group, and I might be ignored or turned away from. It's a complication of the life that we lead now, I think.
We're about out of time.
We are indeed. And so I'm going to ask you to write something about the culture that you live in. And I'm going to give you a little short paragraph that will outline that. And so you're going to get that pretty soon. I should be able to send it to through the channels later today. And so, and it seems like a lot of, it's going to be a lot about the culture that you're surrounded with, the one that you live in and are comfortable with, and the others that are around you. And I thank you for your participation today. This has been, for me, anyway, a really interesting thing to think about.
Listen, ladies, I'm going to ask you a favor. During the next week, if you see Nastya, and if you see Vladislav, and if you see Vladimir, encourage them to come next week, okay? Because this works best if everyone is here and we have good discussions. I appreciate that you're here today, but let's get the rest of our comanda on board, okay?
Okay.
Let's work on that. Just mention it to them. Okay. Tell them that Professor Lero Сильно скучает.
Хорошо.
Okay. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Daria, top of the morning to you. An Irish blessing to you, Katya. Sule, find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
I'll find it. You say it's true, I'll find it.
All right.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you all.
Okay. So I am going to be, Joe, I'm going to be working with the veterans today because